Hello again. Day three. Please don't mind my appearance or, how can I say, maybe the lack of technology. Just saw that I got some options to put in some captions and things like that. As we get through the year, we'll get up to speed with our bells and whistles and the entertainment quality. Although, because of the urgency and, how can you say, like the desperation of the moment of the times, I'm not too worried about that. Those things will come and grow along with us as the time and the days go on. So my name again, Tomlins Nybeck. Of course, that's not my real name. That's just a play on words. You can tease that out. Um, I want you to think. I want you to challenge. I want you to not be passive when we talk about the position of Black Americans in this nation. This is 365 days towards racial change, and if I can just get more Black people to be aware, I know the Black people in my circles, at least we don't talk about these subjects, or just as I ask around, there's no awareness, there's a blindness out there towards who we are, what we should be doing, why we are where we are, why we can't seem to get some breakthroughs that we may want. I've got some family members experiencing some success in this towards this economic question, but the things I've stumbled on to answer the question of why more Black people aren't um, bathing in the economic sunshine of the richest nation on earth. We'll talk about that. I'm informed by a man named Dr. Claude Anderson. This is the first book. I bought a pack of books from him from powernomics.com. This book here, A Black History Reader, 101 Questions You Never Thought to Ask. Very important piece of literature to hold on to and think about. And there are some things in here I had no idea the depths of how the United States systematically has withheld resources, has not kept its promises, on and on. It's almost endless. It's changed my feelings about being an American citizen. Black Labor, White Wealth, another one of Dr. Anderson's book, goes into more detail about power and economics, um, and how these things play out between whites and blacks in America. Powernomics, a blueprint for some solutions. I've not finished reading this yet. I'm still more in the informative areas of the books, but later on I anticipate some step-by-step guidelines um, to participating in some economic change um, towards more blacks. So, although kind of uh, we're in kind of a bind, but blacks are resilient. We've made it through slavery. Those who made it on that voyage from Africa were resilient and strong, and the story is not finished being written for black folks in America. And then here's a piece of fiction. I hold this up, Uncle Tom's Cabin. I think this should be mandatory reading for all people, but especially blacks. It's fiction, but I believe it gives an accurate representation of black slavery in America and how that plays out. Dr. Anderson actually references that book a lot to educate us about the difference between who is Sambo and who is really Uncle Tom. We've gotten it wrong as a group for a long time, and the book and Dr. Anderson articulate those differences quite effectively. So today, what are we talking about today? I made some notes. This concern, this energy about blacks in America, this is it's an economic puzzle. I want you to hold on to that as we talk here in day 3. We'll get into more of the history and specifics of how this has played out over the last couple hundred years. But always look at blacks, this challenge in relationship between blacks and whites and groups as it's an economic situation. It's an economic puzzle, economic problem. Okay, it's money. We can get into morality and justice and things like that, but follow the money. That's the problem. Follow the money. And like we've talked about these things, but we don't do anything about them. They just lay there and fester. Right? We need to open this wound. America needs to follow through and make restitution. The Supreme Court needs to stop resisting our efforts. We shouldn't have to go to court and provide all these proofs to get black Americans what they need. So let me see. I don't want to do a little show and tell for you real quick. Those are those books. Also, I want you to look up Dr. Boyce Watkins as well. He's a very well-educated man, an educator, has been at a lot of prestigious educational institutions. If you want to know about black business, black economics, and I shouldn't say it like that, I mean economics in general, he taught white people as well, right? But he's kind of a go-to guy. You can find him, YouTube him, and also go to the Black Business School. I'm actually going to try a course myself, and I'm trying to be optimistic about good things happening. But let's do a little show and tell. Where's our money going? Do you know? Let's see. I'm just getting back from Walmart, and I needed a few things. Right then, Walmart is closest. The prices are agreeable with my budget, so it's convenient location, price, things like that. We'll see. Well, I just want to find out who's making this stuff. I can look around my room, and I just picked up some headphones. Okay, made in China. Okay, all right, made in China. Good. Let's see what else I got here. Light bulbs, because I bought a lamp. I had to work on some lighting here. I was participating in a media studio, so I've learned a little bit about lighting, which I probably don't have it right, but I know on that first video you may have noticed I'm a little dark on the left side of my face, so I had to get a lamp. And here's the packaging from that lamp. Let's see where's that lamp made? Okay, that lamp's made in China. Okay, but I need a light bulb. Didn't have any light bulbs around. Let's see who made these light bulbs. And the light bulbs are made in China. Okay, good. Okay. I'm in America, but I looked around, and most of this stuff I'm seeing is not it's made in America. I got here, okay. But I wanted a little thermometer for my room. okay, because sometimes it's chilly and stuff. So I wanted a thermometer just to make sure I'm not, something's not wrong physically with me. Now, who made this thermometer? Where'd this thing come from? It was made in China. Okay, China. Okay, made in China thermometer, good. All right, but I needed a extension cord. I'm not discussing quality or anything like that. I just want to know where my money went when I need just the little things around the house. You know, okay, extension cord. It's made in China. Okay, Chinese. Okay. Dr. Anderson goes into depth in his videos mostly about how black resources go outside the community, go and support even other countries now, as you just saw, a handful of products, little necessities around the house, made in China. Right now, there's a big cargo ship coming around the planet with boxes and trailers, loads of Chinese products on a dump into our American soil. And black folks, see, let's remember, keep it economics. Black folks' money goes out. We work, um, we labor, and the money goes out, and very little of it trickles back down into the black community. I was in a city here in America, and some Asians had opened up a barber shop, and they cut hair for cheap, and they did it well, I must say. But they put their business in the black community, cut hair, right? Cutting black hair is a black thing, you would think. No, these Asians in this place had it down pat, did it well, and did it cheap. But it was as if they had a financial vacuum cleaner and were sucking that money out of the black community, and they were not reinvesting it. You know, whoever owned the land of that shop probably rented it to them. The landowner, probably white, and did not live in the community. That it was just they plug their business into the community and suck those resources out. If you remember Ross Perot when he ran for president, he used the same analogy when he talked about um, again the Mexican issue and labor. I think NAFTA was big. There was a lot of big discussion, but he talked about economically how the jobs leaving the country, right? And the idea is that wherever there's a need, some entity, organization plugs in somewhere and sucks resources out, and very little comes back. That's what I'm talking about today with these Chinese products, right? We've got to be aware of that. It's hard to escape that because there are no black businesses that I know of that make extension cords, light bulbs, lamps. Oh, what else did I have there? I thought thermometers, earbuds. You know, was it Dre? He makes beats. Beats, good. I actually don't need that much. Headphone. I'm glad he's made it. I'm glad he's got a company and he's done it. Talk about 50 cents with light water. You know, good stuff. But is that money coming back into the black community? Is that an entity? Are those entities supporting black labor, contributing to black wealth? I don't know. I'm just asking. Maybe I'll get some feedback on that. Now, on that note, you got black people working really hard. See if I can tease this out in the next 15 minutes or so. Working really hard. And I want you to raise your hand if you have ever heard of the Freedmen's Bureau or the Freedmen's Bank. You just raise your hand. I never heard of them until recently. I may have heard in my history lessons in grade school. You know, the history, the way they teach history is so insidious. They teach you all these crazy things in grade school, and there's no backup, no follow up. It's white domination oriented, you know. So I may have heard about some kind of fund created for ex-slaves and things like that. But it's not, you teaching it to me, I'm not even 10 years old yet. They you know, if you press the system about its historical process, education, they'll say, yeah, we teach all that stuff. When you don't care, you're not even pubescent yet. You know, don't forget that stuff once puberty hits, high school, life, you know. Anyway, Freedmen's Bank, Freedmen's Bureau. Very important, two very important institutions. Now, as this is coming out of a Black History Reader, and so it was the radical Republican members of Congress, liberals of their day, said, you know, well, let's make a fund for ex-slaves and blacks and things like that. You know, help them get on their feet. And there was little hints and you know, movements by whites to, you know, I don't know if it was their conscience, if they were smitten or whatever, but, you know, there were small groups, mostly impotent, that wanted to look out for blacks. Of course, none of that stuff ever came to fruition, but the Freedmen's Bank was a good idea. You know, they wanted to put money aside, help the blacks. It was white run, you know, facilitated by whites, and was a good idea. This is and back in 1865, after the end of the Civil War. So it was going to be a depository for money for newly freed black slaves and black ex-Union soldiers. Blacks fought on both sides of the Civil War lines. We fought in all the wars. You know, we can get into that a little bit later. But after 10 years from that date, from 1865, so 1875, the Freedmen's Banks closed, and we know why. We can look at some of the things that have happened recently. The 2008 world financial collapse. We could look at how Social Security is in trouble. You know, when it comes to money, it does something mentally to everybody. So this group of white people who were facilitating it and running this bank, they failed in their commitment. 70,000 blacks deposited what would today be upwards of $57 million into this bank. You know, it was their wages, it was from military cashing out, freedom money, bounties, things like that. These black Americans trusted this white super financial power structure, listened to their promises, put their money there, and were robbed. You know, of the 37 branches located mostly in the East coastal region, were defrauded. Um, the white trustees did what happened in 2008, essentially. Although that was a savings and loan thing, but the white men at that time borrowed against it, made fraudulent deals, invested in crazy stuff, probably outright stole it, invested in white businesses, not black businesses, and all that. Um, they defrauded them. Listen to some of the cities, though, where these branches were located: D.C., New York, Philly, Atlanta, Nashville, Memphis, Charleston, and Savannah. You know, what are today would be like black um, centers of blackness now. And because of that, because they were robbed, they are now depressed areas, or have depressed areas of blackness. All right. No public outcry. No one was ever prosecuted, just like 2008. Nobody comes forward. Nobody's um, does real time. I'm guessing the people, as far as the 2008 collapse, anyone that got caught up and got any time for that, or as a result of that, or just probably didn't have their ducks in a row, or had their friends paid off correctly and found themselves in a vulnerable position. Um, this further fueled Jim Crow, um, which we'll talk about. We're talking about the semi-slavery black codes, that some of those codes were about vagrancy, being jobless. You know, these monies, because they trusted the Freedmen's Bureau, could have been passed down generation to generation to their families, as white people do in their families. But this money was stolen, and there was no one's being paid back, as far as I know. And this is, I'm just recently hearing about this fund, this bank that was for black people. So there goes generational wealth. There's no outcry. That's how. Um, just one example here, and I advise you just get the book and read specifically about the Freedmen's Bureau and the Freedmen's Bank. Yeah, so I say all that, talk about China, Freedmen's Bank, and all that, is because the American economic power structure for blacks, if you're like me, you'll notice a horizontal flow towards money and wealth. I go out, I work my butt off, I get my needs met and stuff. I buy some things I need for the home, things that goes up into white power, right? Where in this case the Chinese are their agents of that. When I get enough, my community gets very little back. We get more jobs, we get more work. That money goes in there and it flows and it circulates within their community, right? See, the whites, they have vertical economic and power structure, whereas their money circulates among themselves, goes up and down, and circulates all around. Not so for the blacks. So, one example, when I go to Walmart and I'm looking for these items, like this and all that, and I've got this extension cord, we'll say, but the rubber, there's some rubber manufacturer that makes the rubber, but they're probably white. This is probably a white institution. Cardboard for the label. Um, at Walmart, there are these items come in these big cardboard receptacles. So there's um, another resource that circulates in a white economic structure, right? It's vertical. They use each other's resources and they buy from each other, and it increases. Where black economics is almost just a flat line. We're just like the drones, just like slavery. And on top of that, we're consumers. Our black businesses are few, far between. You know, God forbid if we explicitly come out in favor of blackness, we're going to get some pushback, blowback from that. White power structure is very intimidated, and sometimes they feel bad about that. They feel bad. We've been taking the lash and oppression 400 some years, and they feel bad. You know. So that's what I just want to talk about. Let's talk about some economics. Maybe, hopefully, we'll get into some histories. We got 365 days of this stuff to hash out. I just want you to become aware, right? We got to go to Walmart. That I don't know any black makers of extension cords, right? And then price becomes an issue. Dr. Anderson even admits this, that the black service or product may be more, for obvious reasons. There's more to navigate economically for that black businessman that that would want to sell me an extension cord. It would probably be twice the price, because resources for black businesses could be more expensive, higher in price, harder to get. You know. So that's day 3. Thanks for hanging out with me. Hopefully these are not going to be too long, and I actually make 2 or 3 of these a day, which is why my clothes and hat doesn't change, because I'm just sitting here talking monologue as best I can. Um, Thank you, family and friends, and I hope to see you again. Be well.